This is the Ops Game Changers podcast, where we share real-life stories from remarkable leaders that are transforming the world of service operations in financial services, healthcare, and BPOs. In this series, we explore some of the key challenges faced by service operations as they strive to deliver more capacity, more productivity, and more business impact. In each episode, we delve into how these Ops Game Changers have addressed a key challenge or issue. Our guests share how they went about unlocking significant value, adopting best practices, and experiencing some game-changing results.
Hello and welcome to Ops Game Changers, the podcast series that shines a light on the critical role that operations play on delivering business impact and results. That's things like driving customer experience, reducing costs and improving efficiencies. My name is Bhavesh Vagela. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Active Ops. In each episode, we'll be focusing on a key KPI, a key business issue or driver. And then we'll be talking to experts, game changers, ops game changers, who will talk through how they've gone about solving those problems. In today's episode, we're very privileged to be in Johannesburg today, talking to one of the key executives at Nedbank. So we're here with Nozi Chibusi, who's the Managing Executive on the retail banking side. Now, with Nedbank, they've been through a pretty transformative journey over the last 12 to 18 months under the guise of Project Phoenix. And particularly in this particular episode, we're going to focus on the role that has played in driving employee efficiencies, employee productivity, and really employee well-being. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Nozi, and we can start to delve into this topic. Nozi, welcome to the Ops Game Changers podcast.
Thank you, Bhavesh.
So before we start, perhaps you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, and really particularly how you ended up where you are today. How did you end up in having this ops role?
Depends how much time you have. So Nozi Chibusi, Managing Executive of Retail and Business Banking Ops. I have been in Nedbank for about 18 years. Prior to that, 5 years with another bank. And I've really been blessed, Bhavesh, in a way that, throughout all these 18 years, I've never really been in the same position for more than 3 years.
Okay.
I think that explains why I ended up in ops. So I have been exposed to different parts of the bank. I have dealt with your entry-level clients. I have been in the trenches. We always say under the gazebo. The guys that know what I'm talking about, they'll know what I'm referring to. I've also had the privilege of dealing with high net worth customers. I've had the opportunity of managing provinces that are made up of both the retail as well as the small business and the large commercial segments, all throughout working with people. I've also had the opportunity of managing a small little business I used to love called Non-Resident and Embassy Banking.
Okay.
Where we looked after all the South Africans that are temporarily abroad, that have not formally emigrated, ambassadors that are in the country that want, access to banking. I've done a lot of back office roles as well, support roles, whether it's on reporting, strategy. I've really done a lot within this organization.
Yeah, you obviously know the bank really, really well, right?
I think I have a good idea of what happens in a lot of areas. But over the past 5 years, I think that was probably much more defining in terms of really ending up in an ops role. Mm-hmm. After spending a lot of years in sales and different parts, as I've mentioned, I was given an opportunity to head up risk compliance and ops for what we call Nedbank integrated channels, which is pretty much all our points of presence, branch, call center, ATMs, etc. Mm-hmm. I did that for about 2 years, 3 years. The third year, the business then restructured under the umbrella of Phoenix.
Okay.
And I was then given an opportunity to head up client operations for the entire cluster.
Fantastic.
When I moved into risk and compliance, it was quite a weird thing because I thought, I think I'll be bored. Okay. I've been selling for all these years. I've been managing salespeople. And now I get an opportunity to go and do risk and compliance. Like, what's that? What do they do?
Exactly.
How do they have fun? But seamless to say, it's one of the best career decisions I've actually made. And I think it definitely did set me up for heading up client operations today for retail and business banking.
So you talked about Project Phoenix. You talked about Phoenix as a transformational thing that's going on with the bank. So perhaps you could tell us a little bit about what Phoenix is and how that impacts operations.
So Phoenix is actually a structural reorganization program that we embarked on because for many, many years as a bank, we were very much product-centric instead of being client-centric. So, you know, to give you an example, if you were a customer and you wanted to apply for a vehicle and a credit card, and let's say you also want to buy a home for you and your family, you actually ended up dealing with 3 different people, yet from the same bank. And those 3 people rely on 3 different systems: back office support, credit support. So we realized if we are going to win in this market, if we are going to be competitive and be relevant to our customers, it was important that we start forming a client-centered organization. We created various centers of excellence across the cluster. So all the sales bankers, whether they were in the vehicle product house or card or home loans, we grouped them together and say, actually, that becomes your front line. And then we looked at the various middle and back offices across the different products, across the different segments. We pulled all those together to create the Center of Excellence of Client Operations.
So, you know, when you're going through that big transformation exercise, though, did you have some specific, I think you call them must-win battles, specific initiatives or KPIs, or in this case, you know, these must-win battles? What were these must-win battles?
Yeah, so for me, obviously pulling together, you know, different groupings that come from different product houses, segments, we had to firstly acknowledge the fact that we are going to come with different ways of doing things. We are going to come with different visions. So it was important that we first understand what is our strategy or what is our vision as retail and business banking client operations. And we defined our reason for being as, you know, we believe that we are there to help the bank at large, RBB at large, to reach its efficiency, growth, and productivity targets, all underpinned by great customer experience and operational excellence. And once we've defined that strategy or that vision, we then had to look at what are the 3 or 4 key things that are going to enable that vision, make it come to life. And that's how we came up with our 4 must-win battles or 4 battlegrounds. The first one, we said we want to be competitive when it comes to service level agreements. We want to be the quickest bank to deliver that product to the customer, especially after they get approval. We don't want our customers to wait too long wondering, will I get my card today or will I get it tomorrow? We believe that you can truly use your turnaround times as a competitive differentiator in the market. The second must-win battle was client-centered processes. We said, you know, we've all been in this bank for long, and a lot of us have often complained about processes that have never been reviewed. This was a fantastic opportunity to just go back to the drawing board and say, before we digitize anything, can we just make sure the process is efficient? So we took it upon ourselves to really look at all our processes in the middle and back office. We started reviewing. Some were not drafted. We draft those and engage with the different stakeholders and say, are you comfortable? Does this talk to your client? If you're a consumer head, or if you're a juristic, if you look after the juristic segment, does this actually make sense in terms of what you want to deliver to your customers as part of your CVP? And that's why we thought, you know, customers, the client-centered processes are definitely a key enabler, is definitely a key enabler for us if we are going to win in operations. The third one was, how do we activate technology and ensure that we have technology that empowers our staff members to be able to do their job, to make decisions on the ground, you know, and that's why we embarked on different programs looking at how do you efficiently manage cases from one person to the next. So we started embarking on things, you know, that look at your case management workflows and also how do we leverage off the bigger programs that the bank was launching, which was Managed Evolution, which talks to seamless onboarding, seamless servicing, irrespective of which channel that you actually come through. The fourth must-win battle for us was around people. We realized that if you are going to win in this particular environment, you have to take your people along with you on the journey. You have to get their buy-in. You cannot force people to produce results.
Of course.
You must find a way of co-creating what you want to do with them.
Yeah.
So given that we inherited four different products that were coming in, team members that had supported those product houses, it was important we start defining our own culture, but all supporting the NetBank culture, the NetBank vision. If we are saying that we are financial experts, we do good, what does that look like in operations? So I may not necessarily be sitting in front of Bhavesh selling that account, but as soon as he says, actually, I want this account, I want this credit card, it comes into our world, we're still financial experts. How do we ensure we process that account as quickly as possible, making sure that we deliver great customer experience? So those were the key, I think the 4 key battlegrounds that we identified as key enablers if we are going to achieve our strategic objectives.
Yeah, and I think, I think we've all been consumers where we're trying to get a service from a bank or service provider, and we get pushed from one person to the other. So I think, what you've described there, I think it resonates with everybody. All consumers all over the world can sometimes tear their hair out when they're having to experience these situations. But from an operations point of view, I mean, I'm particularly interested in, for this particular episode, we're going to focus particularly on the employee experience, right? And, you've got 1,400 employees, they all come from different groups, all probably do things in slightly different ways. I mean, that is one of the biggest challenges for any transformation, as you've already outlined, is bringing your people with you. So how do you even go about doing that? How do you bring everybody aligned? So what are the sort of things that you've done that you can point to that have made a difference for you?
Yeah. So firstly, I think, Bhavesh, the good starting point was to acknowledge that, we are in a chaotic environment. It is highly volatile. We have been given a mandate where we've said we want to be client-centric, but we had to actually just pause and acknowledge the fact that change was real. So as a leader, you have to first and foremost engage with your people so that they are aware that you are aware of the transition that they are going through. Change, is the most constant thing, as we often say, but we all deal with it differently. So we had to first acknowledge that, and this is the language I use with them, that we have been given a vacant piece of land. There's absolutely nothing that is on this land. We have the opportunity to start designing and building our own house. We will define whether we want a 2-bedroom house, we want a mansion, we are going to define it. We've got the tools, but let's first acknowledge that we are going to start afresh. So through this journey, we are going to unlearn a lot of habits that we've deemed as great business practice. We are going to adopt the new as per what we agreed to as a collective. So first and foremost, acknowledging the change. And then we started spending a lot of time explaining why we got here. Because you do not embrace Phoenix because, Nosy says so. We have to show them, guys, even you yourself in your own personal capacity, you've had to deal with multiple individuals in the bank just so that you can get an answer on your vehicle finance.
Of course.
So if we wanted to improve that experience, it's important that we really change the way we do things. Some of the guys felt, whatever it is that they did in the environment, it worked and it worked well. When you said, but what's the point of being a 5-rater in a 1-rated team, right? Because ultimately it's one net bank, it's one share price. So we had to spend a lot of time explaining the why before we get into the what. Because I do believe that when you're embarking on such large-scale change, if you do not really unpack the reason for doing what you're doing, you actually end up losing people along the way.
Yes, I can
so
imagine.
Some of them just agree, but it's actually passive resistance because they end up not actually following through with the changes that you want to implement. After spending a lot of time on the why we are doing this, and I think we started getting a lot of their buy-ins, we then started defining what the what would look like. And we said, let's imagine the ops of the future.
Yeah.
What does that look like? People have often defined as if people that push a lot of paper in the back office.
Of course.
How do we take this to the next level? How do we ensure that somebody sitting, I don't know, another department somewhere, how do we make sure that they get attracted to what we do in our world? How do we make sure that we start showing value to Triko, to the X squared large? Everybody must start seeing value, not because we feel we are important, but the results must speak for themselves.
Yeah.
So when we started defining the what, that's how we came up with the must-win battles.
Got it.
And we said, whether you are in vehicle finance and home loans and card, ultimately there's a process that you need to follow. Can we all challenge ourselves around making sure that the process is efficient? And not only that, start benchmarking yourself. So if our service level agreement has always been, 2 days, and I always laugh because when I started introducing the must-win battles, some of the challenging questions I had was, so now you want process applications because it's still within SLA. and I said, no, definitely not. For me, if anything, I want to reduce those SLAs, those turnaround times, as much as possible, still managing your risk and your quality, obviously. And as we started really showing people how practically you can make a difference in your world, we started getting a lot of that buy-in. So in my mind, you acknowledge where you are, start acknowledging the ripple effects of change, that you're going to have different reactions and be ready for that. And then start saying, why are we embarking on this change? What's in it for the staff members? And I spend a lot of time on that because when you start saying what's in it for me, it changes the conversation altogether. So we started painting a picture for our staff members that says, look, you've always been in home loans forever and a day. You now have an opportunity to actually work across products. This means, different career options actually that will be presented to us. And by doing that, we were able to start drafting the future.
Wow. And, I guess with any transformation of staff, some people buy in very quickly and some people are very cynical, and then some people eventually, the light bulb comes on and they see the new world and, the new house that they're building. Did you, if you kind of thinking back on the journey you've had so far, were there any particular tactics that you could share that you think, actually, if I'm sitting in ops and if you were talking to another operations person and said, well, here's my advice, was there particular tactics that you used that you felt that actually moved the needle in that transformation?
So I don't even think it's a tactic. I just think it's a hygiene factor. It's just communicate. Be very transparent with your team members that, this is where we are. Colleagues, we are faced with this huge mountain. Whether we like it or not, if we don't tackle it, we actually end up being out of the game completely. And the more you communicate, the more you're transparent, and create an environment where people can also ask questions and even come up with ideas. By doing that, just driving those conversations intentionally, we were able to, I think, even convince some of the people that thought this will never work. We ended up convincing them. But not only that, also identifying your influencers. That one person that often resists and they do it they're often quite vocal.
Yes, of course.
in a public forum. And targeting those because those are your change agents. By having few change agents across the department, we knew that you are able to drive the right narrative that you want coming. But also, you start picking up some of the gaps that you might have overlooked as well as a business. So in my mind, communicate, be transparent, and do not underestimate the power of visible leadership. You have to lead the change. You can't present the change. It's not a PowerPoint concept. You actually have to lead the change, spend a lot of time on the floor, engaging your staff members, and show your team, your leaders also lead by example. By doing that, people could see that actually this is not just another thing that we're expecting to change overnight. We understand it's going to be challenging. We understand that there'll be different reactions there, but we are committed to walking with you throughout this entire journey.
And when you think about the journey you've been on and the transformation that has happened, you can see by the transformation by your staff and how they feel about now working for in operations, which perhaps in the past,
Yes.
as you said, wasn't
Yes.
seen as a
Yes.
career, and perhaps you didn't have the capability to sit in front of your peers
Yes.
to demonstrate the value operations provides to the rest of the business. I think you're in a place now where you're able to do that, right?
Yes. Yes.
And what kind of what's driven that? Has that been having more data and insights that give you that capability, and then also seeing? I guess if somebody sees they can deliver, a turnaround time of 20 days compared to doing it in 50 days, that automatically is an empowerment.
Correct.
So how's that kind of impact helped?
Yeah. So in banking, you can't manage what you cannot measure.
Yeah.
So I think just the ability of having data that quantifies the value makes a difference. So instead of just saying to people, no, we work hard in operations, guys, we are the enablers. It's important that you bring forward information that says, I actually started with X number of headcount. I managed to reduce my headcount by 30%, still delivering more results. So I've never compromised in terms of our payouts, the rate at which we pay out, the turnaround times. We've never compromised, but we've managed to actually become much more efficient. So that was one key data point that we brought forth, and I'm talking still at a high level from an ExCo perspective that, look, you gave me this portfolio reduced headcount. Not only that, I look at my turnaround times. I can proudly say on this product, that product, and that product, we're definitely first in the market when it comes to responding to our customers. We are the fastest when it comes to delivering that card. We are the fastest when it comes to registering that home loan. That was another key data point. And then you start looking at staff members, in terms of a lot of surveys that we send out to staff just to ascertain their well-being. And those results also showing us that actually our team members and team leaders and managers are actually enjoying being in operations. We've created a really great place to work for our staff members. Not only that, we've now professionalized what they do through Active Ops. We've got a lot of team leaders today that are accredited AOM team leaders. This is something they could have never achieved in the past. In the past, if you're not in sales, it becomes very difficult in an interview to define exactly what you do and the value you bring to the table. So for me, I think a lot of those metrics that we have put forward, a lot of the data that shows how we are contributing to the business growth targets, the productivity targets, the efficiency targets, and our contribution to that great customer experience matrix that we look at. For me, you cannot argue with results.
That's it's, as I said at the start of the podcast, it's a very inspiring journey you guys have been on, because I would imagine by what you've just described for your employees, if you'd looked at an employee survey maybe before Phoenix to an employee survey now, there's probably marked differences, right, in just the enthusiasm and the engagement. So I guess that leads me into, if you were going to go through this journey again, and you were able to go back to yourself and say, okay, what would you do differently? Is there anything that you would say, actually, I would do that slightly differently?
So I think we embarked obviously on the Active Ops program or the journey about 18 months ago. And when we started, I really thought it's just another software that we're introducing into the system. And as a result of that, the immediate response was, oh, well, I like what they can do because I do not know how to track productivity today. I do not know how to forecast. I love, what I'm seeing here in terms of their offering. And the immediate response was project manage. And looking back now, because I've seen the benefit in terms of how we have transformed our culture to really being that NetBank way, we've got a relatively healthy attrition. Staff members look forward to coming to work. They love what they do. Our team leaders really feel that they are in credible professions. So it's no longer, so it moved from just being a software program or project management concept to actually being the way we do business. So looking back, I would have actually just started really on the culture journey. I would have engaged my HR counterparts much more earlier on to say, look, actually, in this world of hybrid working, in this world where we have a lot of people working from home, how do we start taking our own strategy and use this to enable that, to drive that, so that we are able to get optimal results? So holding the mirror to self, I do think, the approach was initially transactional, but we've certainly seen with the results that as much as you are getting those real tangible KPIs, it has been a transformational journey for all of us as a team.
And obviously, as you said, you've seen results on your big KPIs around customer experience, and your NPS score is improved, and
Costs.
you've seen marked improvement, which people like to be part of success, don't they? So
Correct.
that culture generates itself as a
Correct.
result of that.
Correct.
So I'll kind of finish off with what's your most proudest moment of this whole journey?
So I think if I look back on the active ops journey itself, evaluation was not an easy one. When we first started, we had to go through a lot of red tape in terms of signing this off. We approached it as a project to manage instead of a cultural journey. And when we started, I look back at when we started with that first wave, we started seeing results, and then we added on the second wave. We're now on the third wave. We've got well over 900 staff members and still counting that are now in this program. I think there's one thing that I'm very, very proud of is that moment when we accredited our team leaders. Because for me, that was professionalizing ops, but also taking the time to acknowledge them for their contribution to the bank. Whenever we design programs, technology, incentives, all these things, rewards, often, the frontline departments often take priority.
Of course.
What we started doing here was to say, irrespective of where you sit, yes, you don't sit in front of the customer, but we actually acknowledge your experience. We acknowledge your competence. And we now, we are now saying, with this active ops accreditation, you can boldly sit in an interview and say, I can do this job and I can do it well. For me, that's a proud moment. Yes, I've got the results, but I'm a big fan of people development. There's an old saying that says, treat people like they make a difference, and they probably will.
Yeah, that's a very good phrase.
Treat them like they make a difference, and they probably will. And we've seen it where we've got people that have moved out of sales jobs to join client operations, simply because they love what we do, the speed of execution, the focus, the drive, the high performance culture has just been amazing. So yes, it's exhausting because,
24/7, right?
24/7. When the sales guys say we need to pay out 4 billion, guess what? We need to make sure that it's possible.
Comes on your side, yeah.
Absolutely. But really, there's no ways we would have achieved these results, to be honest with you, if we didn't have management systems that empowered every single team leader. Those are the guys, remember, those are the guys that drive that culture. They influence the team members.
Yes.
I mean, I can stand on stage and tell people, this is who we are, this is what we want to do. Ultimately, that guy there, that lady who's a team leader that looks after 10 or 12 people, that is actually your ops, a game changer.
Yes.
If they do not buy into this program, there's no ways you will win. Those are the guys that make sure that you have the results. So for me, if you do not have the people as top of priority on your to-do list, there's no ways you are able to win in this industry.
And actually, interesting enough, you prioritize that as one of your must-win battles, right? Of your 4 key strategic pillars, which is really, really interesting. While I've got you, can I ask you a forward-looking question?
Sure.
So thinking about not just the Phoenix and the operations journey you've had so far, do you see operations transforming over the next 5 years? What do you think ops in the future is going to look like? That's
an interesting question. Yeah, so for me, I think, yes, operations has now evolved from just pushing paper to being a key enabler for sales and service for any institution. We have seen that if you want to unlock efficiencies, don't just focus on technology. Make sure you've got efficient processes. I do think that ops in the future is the operations that supports platform business, where you're not only just pushing traditional banking products, but how do you use principles of effective throughput management to drive any product. So as a bank, we have a platform called Evo, where you are able to purchase any product. I mean, you want to buy a toaster today, Bhavesh, you can literally just go online and you're able to purchase. If you do not have any cash, no worries. We're able to even provide you credit on the spot so that you're able to buy the product. So the way I see it, operations evolves from just looking after banking, traditional banking products, to more of the platform business, managing that entire ecosystem. And that can only be done and achieved through one, MI and data analytics. You also need technology that unlocks this. And most importantly, you need future fit staff. You need staff members that are empowered, who are flexible. And we've seen it, because, there was a big hype on digital and technology. We've seen it that you can never fully replace that human touch. You can never ever fully replace that. So it is important that as an organization and as an ops, you use data analytics as well as technology to empower your people to make great decisions when they service those customers.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, so just kind of wrapping up this episode of the podcast, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
For being with us, and more importantly, thank you so much for enabling us to come into the Nedbank offices in Johannesburg and do this live. But normally I do this through a Teams call or some virtual call, so it's fabulous to be here in person, and it's fabulous to kind of share what an inspirational journey that you guys have been on, and really the hard work and effort. I mean, many people say we're going to put customers at the center of your business. It's a lot harder to do than actually the words are. So it's a very inspiring story, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners who are all ops people will take a lot of nuggets of what you've described and be able to put that into their operational journey. So thank you so much for taking that time and spending this with us and being an ops game changer.
No, thank you so much, Bhavesh. It's been a huge privilege, really, for me to be able to tell our story. Really, thank you so much, also, for the partnership, I think, with the Active Ops. We pride ourselves today with these great results, but simply because we've had a partner that is there with us every minute. So a big thank you to you and the team, but also I think to our people. I look good today because we've got great people that have actually embraced this change and make sure that we deliver great value for our clients.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nozi. So wrapping up the Ops Game Changers podcast, I hope you can all, as you listen to this, you'll be inspired, like I have, in terms of the journey that Nedbank have gone through and the inspirational stories of the staff and how they've become very central to this new culture that's been generated. So as always, until the next time, thank you very much for listening, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks and bye.
Today's Ops Game Changers podcast was brought to you by ActiveOps. We'd love to hear your thoughts. You can do that by sharing them on our Facebook, LinkedIn, or X feeds, or you can comment in the comment section of the YouTube version of this podcast. And if you've enjoyed what you've heard, please do like and subscribe and check back in soon to hear more valuable insights from other inspiring leaders in operations. Thanks again for listening, and goodbye.